an incorrigible delinquent at times. Behave yourself, man!
Now, we've been hearing about Labour and the bitter divisions exposed by the vote on Syria, and the row has also raised fresh questions about the party's leadership. The Labour MP and former Shadow Education Secretary Tristram Hunt was one of the contenders in the leadership race before stepping down. We'll be talking to him in a moment. But first, our social affairs editor, Jackie Long, has been to his constituency in Stoke to look at social mobility, something Mr Hunt wants his party to do more to combat.
Change can be hard. The pots still punctuate the landscape of Stoke, but its potteries, famous throughout the world for centuries, no longer produce on an industrial scale. And the city is now one of the most deprived areas in Britain.
If I could leave this building tomorrow morning, go out, get a job, and literally just get a job and move out of here, move out of Stoke, that'd make my life perfect.
All these people saying they're going to grow up, they're going to have loads of money, big houses, that's just silly talk in my eyes. Just dreaming, keep dreaming, it's not happening.
And it's perhaps no surprise that dreaming big seems pointless. Stoke is one of the least socially mobile places to live in Britain. Their background still dictating the future for so many young people. At the YMCA, local Labour MP Tristram Hunt is on a mission. He wants his party to refocus on tackling inequality, to make sure all young people have the same chances in life.
If any ball you want, the world's more oyster.
My advice, you go for the yellow.
The message he gets, that too many are written off too early.
The high school education system is absolutely crap.
Right.
None of that helped me at all. I left school in year 10. I think you put too much pressure on young people to tell them that they need to get their GCSEs when they're not even 16, they're 13, 14-year-olds, and you're telling them you need to get your GCSEs now, or else your whole life is ruined.
Did you have support at home for the community?
None of that. I grew up in foster care.
Schools give up way too easy.
Yeah.
When they said to me, Jay, you can't pass maths and English, they made me get a G in maths just to pass it, so I can just get a grade. But at college I'm still doing basic maths and English. That's how embarrassing it is.
They would focus on the clever the other clever ones, because of obviously Ofsted and things like that, and they only want to like show Ofsted the clever people.
We've been talking lots about school, but it's also the kind of connections that you build up outside of school.
At the family network I've got, I could go work on the asbestos tomorrow. Doing asbestos removal, which is something you probably couldn't do, just go ring up tomorrow and do that.
Yeah.
Because I know that's my family, that's where I've been brought up and raised around stuff like that.
Yeah.
It was a lot easier for you probably to say, oh, I'm going to be a television presenter, or I'm going to be a politician, or because that's what your family does.
And how do you begin to change that?
If you want it.
But how do you think society should challenge that? Because it shouldn't just be everyone just doing...
It's the old education system again, isn't it?
Despite years out of school, Andrew, now 20, plans to go to university next year. Sarah has just started a new job, but isn't convinced she'll be able to fully escape her past.
I know some employees, jobs, whatever, they look at your past and they judge you from that.
Yeah.
So I'm thinking, I've been in the YMCA, I've sofa surfed, I've been on the streets. They're going to think, no chance, she's not going to be good enough.
Fantastic, more than one object, well done.
At Waterside Primary School in Hanley, changing futures is the aim. By the end of Year 6, results for reading, writing and maths are well above the national average. This is social mobility writ large, given where so many of the children start.
They haven't even got those basic words. So for instance, trying to get your attention, they'd pull at your dress or your trousers and tug you, or they would point at you with a squeak. we've had on coming in on entry. So that's really created a challenge for the school. This year's nursery intake, we had 35% of children that were still in nappies. So it was basic toilet needs, basic skills, basic routines, having to actually teach them how to eat with a fork, with a spoon and a knife, telling them that that's what they're actually called.
Critical to success, encouraging parents to engage, even if their own experience of education was a negative one. Those who don't turn up to parents' evening are chased by the school. And for those who can't read and write, all letters are sent in audio form. There are no excuses. What do you say to those parents? How do you get them to believe that their children can have a different life?
Make sure that where possible, you make your children believe they can achieve better things than you, because if we all keep driving that expectation, slowly but surely it's going to get better, generation upon generation, where we make a difference to all children.
I wouldn't mind just an house, a family, and not loads of money, but enough money to live off.
Yeah.
So I'm not like, people can't look down on me. So I don't want to be higher than them, but I don't want to be low either. I just want to be the same money and a house. I'd be happy with that, because that's a million times better than what I've got now.
So what can be done to make social mobility a reality? What can Labour offer to people who fear that making a better life than the one their parents had is a dream in itself?
And Tristram Hunt joins me now. One of the really striking things about that piece was the disclosure that some parents at the school in your constituency couldn't read or write, and 35% of nursery kids arrived at school in nappies. I mean, these are big problems. Does Labour have practical solutions?
These are really big problems, and this is about the cycle of disadvantage and the cycle of inequality going down the generations. And if you want to give the year one pupils at Waterside Primary the best chance they need, you've also got to work with the parents. So what I think is, when we think about inequality today, we have to think about a new landscape of inequality. And it's not just about income. Income is very, very important, but it's about family and community and capability. So we have to make sure that we're involved in good parenting classes. We have to think about the mental health of the mother. We have to think about making sure that young people that kids, when they turn up at school, are able to speak, are able to interact, are able to use knives and forks. And all of this, I think, is a different way of thinking about inequality than just redistribution, than just thinking about fiscal transfers.
OK, so what about government incentives under a Labour government to promote marriage, for example? You're talking about a strong family unit there.
I think a strong family unit, which is enormously important for the upbringing of children. And family, the structures of families are changing, but what we know is that a stable family structure is very, very important. We also know that...
Would Labour come out more strongly in favour of marriage, for example, than it has in the past?
Well, I would hope so, but what we also know is that the existing conservative incentive, the credit for marriage, doesn't really make a great deal of difference. You need redistribution, and the whole argument we had about tax credits is enormously important, but then you also have to get what I want to call a social investment state. When you think about putting money into the early years, when you think about the mental health of the mother, when you think about tackling drug and alcohol dependency, all of these elements are a new way of thinking about our welfare state, a new way of thinking about inequality. In the old days, Beveridge had his 5 giant evils which he needed to tackle in the mid-1940s. I think we've got new evils of inequality which are holding back children in Stoke-on-Trent, and we have to break this cycle of disadvantage going down the generations.
But how can you do that as a party when you're riven by infighting? I mean, last night we had the spectacle of your leader and arguably the most senior member of the shadow cabinet speaking on opposing sides in that incredibly important Syria debate. I mean, how long can that division go on for?
Well, it's not ideal having the leader of the party and the shadow foreign secretary taking different views. But the film we've seen tonight brings it together. The film we've seen tonight is about Labour's historic mission, which is about battling inequality and promoting social mobility. And we've had an email as members of Parliament tonight from Tom Watson and Jeremy Corbyn saying, yes, we've had different views over extending military intervention from Iraq to Syria, but we're the Labour Party, and what we're about tackling poverty, about promoting advantage, all of that needs to now come together to be a party united in that purpose.
But how do you unite when you've had such bitter divisions? I mean, that's unprecedented, that debate last night with the Hilary Benn and Jeremy Corbyn opposing each other.
Because we focus on what matters, and we focus on why, as a party, we came into being. In the mid-19th century, we came into being because of extraordinary economic changes, which meant that working people needed the support of trade unions, working people needed the support of a strong state. I think we're seeing just such changes today, a very fractured economy, fractured society, and we need a Labour answer to that, which is partly about the state and it's partly about institutions and capacity building and working alongside civil society. So, yes, we can talk about Westminster divisions, but we can also talk about how we deliver for working people in Stoke-on-Trent. And my argument is that only the Labour Party can do that, because that's what we're passionate about.
But can a Labour Party, led under Jeremy Corbyn, get into government and carry those things out?
Yes.
Really?
Yes, we can do that, and we have to do that. And we can chase our tail around some of these divisions. But
you think he's up to the job, though, do you?
Yes, Jeremy's up to the job, and he can do it. And what we don't want to see, though, is the kind of sort of stuff we saw from Ken Livingstone and this kind of snarky approach to our party. What we want to do is focus on what matters, tackling inequality, promoting social mobility, delivering social justice. The inequality we see today is about how cities like Stoke-on-Trent and Hartlepool and Grimsby and some of our coastal towns and ex-coalfield communities are being arguably left behind in an era of globalisation and great change.
Okay.
And just as we did in the past, we've got to come up with good, effective, credible answers to that challenge to deliver for our communities.
But if you believe that Jeremy Corbyn can do that, I mean, last night, after Hilary Benn's speech, you tweeted a hugely powerful and principled speech, and you and he both voted for military action against the leader. Do you see a future leader there who might deliver all this on social mobility rather more effectively?
Well, it was a beautiful speech. It was a great work of oratory, and what I particularly liked about it...
A speech that Jeremy Corbyn didn't applaud.
Well, what I liked about it was the way that Hilary Benn, as part of the Benn dynasty, understood Labour's historic duty of internationalism, understood that we can't just look in on ourselves and cower away from the world, that actually, when there are tough decisions to be taken, the Labour Party, which helped to found NATO, which helped to found the United Nations, which supported a free India, the Labour Party is a world internationalist party, and Hillary drew on that heritage, which was also about fighting for trade union rights abroad, fighting fascism. That's what we're about. So I thought it was a great, heroic speech. But as Hillary said, he's got no interest in leading the Labour Party. As he said on the radio yesterday morning, what he wants to be is Foreign Secretary, but to be confident that we have a strong place in the world.
And for that heroic speech, as you put it, he got death threats. He got a tweet from the SNP leaders, the ex-leader, saying that his father would be turning in his grave. I mean, do you think the Labour leadership is doing enough to stamp out this appalling bullying we've seen on social media and more directly?
No, I thought Alex Salmond's comments were disgusting. Actually,
but there's comments coming from Labour supporters, Corbyn supporters.
Tony Benn fought against fascism himself. The stuff we've seen online is totally reprehensible. And Jeremy and Tom Watson of tonight said that it's got no place. And what we have to have, though, I think, is a degree of transparency now. We've got some of these shady groups like Momentum operating on the fringes of the party. The General Secretary of the Labour Party has said Momentum has nothing to do with the Labour Party.
But that's Corbyn supporters who set up the Momentum.
This is the concern, and that's why we need some transparency. We need the office of the leader of the Labour Party to say Momentum is nothing to do with us. It's nothing to do with the Labour Party. I'm all for pressure groups. I'm all for civil society. I'm all for Greenpeace. But they're not part of the Labour Party. Momentum is not part of the Labour Party.
So we should disown it.
We need some clarity on that from the office of the leader of the Labour Party, just as we've had clarity from the General Secretary. And yes, I think there have been some pretty reprehensible comments from those involved with it. but also, I might say, intimidation of members of Parliament, and particularly intimidation of female Labour members of Parliament.
Tristram Hunt, thank you very much for joining us.
I've been getting away with it all.